Yeah, what's going on? This is in reference to, of course, an earlier post that was made. There was a project that I was working on here, like I said, taking a few days to go ahead and complete. But it goes into, the whole movement. This, particular movement here, the boxing source, has started some time ago. It kind of like, branched off from, being, you know, starting off with articles, so to speak, on an independent sports website, and then it just branched off from that, and a podcast was started basically. But it was started as the Boxing Source radio show, and in May of 2015, that was when the Boxing Source radio show was started, and it is branched off to what we have currently with the Boxing Source podcast that has been weekly on Sundays, usually live through YouTube or whatever is used for live. Now YouTube, Twitch, and also Rumble. But it was basically there as a weekly show for all the topics in the sport of boxing. But as it's been mentioned a few times before, through this has been, according to reports, the longest running boxing podcast in existence. And one thing that I've been working on is, of course, having it in audio form, so to speak, when it came to the Boxing Source podcast. But I had kind of slacked off on that for some time. But now, not only have I caught up to current form, but we have every single episode available. That's right, every single episode available on Spotify. So you could go on Spotify, look up the Boxing Source. You'll be able to check it out from the pilot episode in May of 2015 all the way up to now. So now longest running boxing podcast in existence, the Boxing Source. All right, 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 all right. What's up? What's going on? What's good? Yeah, of course, I've been mobile, over the past couple of weeks, but I am, back home base, home, everything like that. So here we are on the October 20th, 2024 episode of the Boxing Source podcast. Yep, it's hit, it's going down, it's good. I'm your host, J.R. Bell, course leader of the Boxing Source. And we got, a number of things that we want to talk about on this particular podcast, man. We want to get things going. We want to get things started. We want to get things cracking. Because, oh man, what a fight card we had at the Caribe Royale Resort in Orlando, Florida, man. And ooh. And the thing about it is, I'm definitely surprised on the results. Of course, we had a preview of sorts there when it came to this particular fight. When you have Tim Tszyu going up against Bakhram Murtazaliev for that IBF super welterweight title, right? You had Tim Tszyu, of course, being the former WBO super welterweight champion. Yep, former super welterweight champion, WBO. We came up the ranks in the WBO, became the mandatory challenger in the WBO, was trying to get a bout with Jermell Charlo, couldn't get a bout with Jermell Charlo. Charlo ended up facing Canelo, and because of that, he got stripped of that belt. All right? So Tim Tszyu basically got, as some of these folks in boxing says, an email WBO title. you know. And he was able to have a defense of that, against Brian Mendoza. Was able to win the decision against Brian Mendoza. And then he went on to face, of course, Sebastian Fundora, which was going to be for the WBO and WBC titles. Okay. And we also, what happened there in March, we ended up being a bloodbath and, ended up having your guy, Tim Tszyu, ended up being on the short end of a decision. Yo, what's going on? This fighter IQ in the building. What's happening? What's happening with you, man? On the live chat. Well, like I said, Tim Tszyu, fell short, in that battle against Sebastian Fundora. And then you had like plans of him facing Virgil Ortiz Jr. in August. Didn't go through. Didn't quite go through. And then he tried to see if they could line him up for a fight. And they were talking about, maybe he could get a fight in with Erickson Lubin. And Erickson Lubin told me, he's like, hey, I'll go ahead and do it. But, I'm just, recovering and stuff like that. You know what I'm saying? From, an injury. So, with that being said, just give me, a couple more weeks. Give me a couple more weeks and I'll be ready to go, and I'll be ready to go. But Tim Tszyu didn't necessarily do that. So, with that being said, you had Tim Tszyu going after, the world title there against Bakhram Murtazaliev, of course, who won that belt, by getting a stoppage victory, TKO, and the thing about it was like, well, yeah, he did get the TKO. He did get the win. He did get the TKO, right? But, it was something to the point where they said, well, with him, getting that TKO win that he did there against Jack Colkay, that maybe they could have seen something in Bakhram Murtazaliev that maybe Tim Tszyu could exploit. And, the thing was, it was like, hey, man, I thought, there may have been something, there for Tim Tszyu and that he could exploit. I pretty much said that in the preview, that there would be a number of openings there, a number of opportunities for Tim Tszyu to try to land shots. But, oh my goodness, it was basically the other way around. You had Bakhram Murtazaliev taking advantage of just about all opportunities that he could have had there to land on Tim Tszyu. And the thing about it was like, man, I watched this. I didn't watch it live, of course, because I was, on location for a Pro Box TV event there where they had a prospect show by No Excuse Promotions, which I will talk about later in this podcast. So by the time I got back home and got settled in, I watched that show from start to finish right when I got home at about just a little bit before midnight. Okay. And so, yeah, I watched the first fight, watched the second fight, watched this main event. So around like 1 a.m. or so, that's when I was watching this main event. And yeah, I did see one highlight. So I was watching the main event almost like I was watching it live. And man, I watched that fight and I'm like, oh my God, yo, Tim Tszyu got cooked. He got cooked. Oh, like, yo, this was just something where I'm like, man, the speed and the power coming from Bakhram Murtazaliev was just something that Tim Tszyu was not ready for. He was not ready for it at all. And man, once he got popped there in the second round, oh my goodness, he was just getting beat up from pillar to post. And it was just the thing where the reach, it was not just the reach there from Murtazaliev, it was just the power. He was getting behind, He was getting behind the guard of Tim Tszyu because Tim Tszyu at times had like a high guard. But Murtazaliev was able to throw left hooks around that guard. And boy, he was throwing left hooks, straight rights, coming through with uppercuts. He was flowing with the punches that he was throwing. He was flowing with what he was throwing. Yeah, I know that was some cheap rhyme. But it was just that he was very fluent in what he was throwing those punches at Tim Tszyu. And Tim Tszyu's answers was just not enough there very early. And once he got hit with a couple counters and a couple of combos that put him down the first time in that second round, it was bad. And it ended up where he got knocked down 3 times in that second round. And thing about it was he was just getting beat up so bad. His legs were all over the place. By the end of that second round. And the thing about it was in that third knockdown, that referee Chris Young was, looking at him and saying, "Hey, look, man. Hey, I'm looking at. I may want to stop it," but he was able to get through it, And then after that, third round was about to start, and the doctor came in and checking on Tim Tszyu. Should have waved it off then. But then he went out there for that third. He went out there for that third round and got beat up some more. Went down to the canvas again, and the referee could have stopped it then, but he didn't. Tim Tszyu got up, and then Bakhram Murtazaliev started to beat on him some more until at the same time the referee stopped the bout, waved the bout, and the towel was thrown. It was crazy. It was crazy. I want to give my guy, my great guy, great guest, great panelist coming up there to be checking in. I know he watched the fight. He looked at it. He assessed the fight, and he looked at that beat down that happened there by Tim Tszyu. It was just crazy, out there. You know what I mean? So I want to hear from my guy, the boxing academic, on this because, I'm still, like I said, I'm still processing it because, like I said, I had Tim Tszyu. I picked Tim Tszyu to win the fight. I picked him to win the fight. It was highly favored in this going into this bout. As mentioned, it was like not that much that was known there from Murtazaliev going into this bout, with that exception of that one fight that he had, which was his last bout against Jack Koke, of course, who is a world title contender and all that type of stuff. There at the 154-pound division, had faced multiple notable fighters at 154 over the course of his pro career. And also, went up to 160 for a little bit too. So, for Murtazaliev to get that win by KO, late KO, a lot of people were like saying, "Hey, maybe Tim Tszyu could do something on it," but nope, he couldn't. Let me see here if academic. I'm gonna do one thing here on that. So let me run that there real quick. Academic, you hear me?
Yes, sir. I can hear you. Can you hear me?
Yeah, for sure, man. What's happening with you?
Not much. How you doing today?
Man, I should be really, really tired, man. I haven't had much rest this weekend, but I've been able to push through it for the weekend. I just hope it don't turn up during the week, man. But what are your reactions to what happened there with Tim Tszyu last night in Orlando?
I think that definitely for the card, for the main fight, for the platform that it was on, everybody won. The fans won, Amazon Prime won, PBC won, everybody. Well, the promoter probably didn't win, but you get what I'm saying.
Right.
Hey, almost everybody won.
Almost everybody.
Yeah. But in terms of the fight starting, and then you could just literally see that there were going to be fireworks with the velocity, with the speed that the punches were coming. They just went at it. They started from round one and they were going at it. Now, some information that I found out after the fact was that he was Tim Tszyu's sparring partner, or they sparred each other, however it went. So what I now understand is that he knew that Tim Tszyu wasn't going to keep that right hand up. He knew that from sparring. He knew he could throw that left hook and it was gonna land on Tim Tszyu.
Let's go. Yeah, at any time, man. It was that was
At any time. And Tim Tszyu had to know that too, right?
yeah. I thought he would, but it didn't even matter.
It didn't even matter. So great fight, man. You had what's his name?
Murtazaliev.
Murtazaliev, who was a combination of speed, power, and volume. You had him going against Tim Tszyu, who's mostly power and bullying people.
Mm-hmm.
You got one style, speed, power, volume against power, bullying people. You come up with your Achilles heel. If you got somebody who's faster than you, who throw more punches than you, and they hit just as hard, if not harder than you, that doesn't bode well for that recipe. It was sort of like you remember when Canelo fought the other Mexican that he fought with the dark hair that he fought I can't remember, Angulo. Remember he fought Angulo?
Yeah.
So you remember Angulo wasn't necessarily powerful, but Angulo used to like maul people, right?
Right.
But it was sort of like a attrition maul. And so Angulo get in there with Canelo, who was faster, powerful, and whatever. He just had better attributes. That's what we saw. And so, I was on Matt's show yesterday, and a lot of people were essentially kind of mad at Tim Tszyu and saying like he fought the wrong fight. Yeah, but in me watching Tim Tszyu, I didn't expect anything other than Tim Tszyu, but for him to do what he did, for him to be on his front foot, for him to throw a bunch of shots and then to try to get you out of there. He has a pressure sort of like style, and the one way he knows is going forward and getting you out of there with the quality of shots that he throws. So to expect him to say he should have boxed or he should have did this or he should have did that, like, that's not what made him successful. That's not what he learned. Like, why would we expect something of him that he's never done? And so understanding who he is and, you are who you are, generally speaking, right?
Mm-hmm.
I think that one thing that we already knew about Tim Tszyu, but has been surmounted to me even more, supplanted even more, is that when you are faced with adversity, you got a few different ways that it can go.
Mm-hmm.
You can tuck it in and fold up. You can keep trying and push forward. You can, do the Keith Thurman and clear your head and retreat until you get ready to fight. It's a lot of ways that you can respond. What I do know about Tim Tszyu, I don't care with him losing. What I will say, Tim Tszyu is a champion to me. Tim Tszyu has the heart of a champion, may not have all the skill, but against the right set of circumstances, the man at least got the mental mind of a champion. And so what I saw, he didn't want to give up. And so and it ain't smart, right? Okay, you can say that it's not smart because it wasn't smart, but it depends because, when he did come forward a little bit, when he got caught when there was 2 minutes left, he survived that round. I mean, he got hit with like 3 more shots, but
yeah,
he survived the round, and part of it was some pressure. Part of it was that he did get a little bit smarter and he started trying to like use a little distance. Like he did all of that stuff, but he survived 2 minutes, which is very difficult to do in the mental sort of space that he was in, which he was concussed. Maybe not concussed, but he was buzzed.
He was hurt because his legs were just going all over the place there.
All over the place. And he still kept trying to like fight. So to me, yes, the playbook is out on Tim Tszyu. I get it. The playbook is out on Tim Tszyu. If he can't bully you, then all you got to do is just wait and just hit him with some clean shots, and maybe he won't be able to take the shots. But what I will say, as far as his stock, people are going to continue calling Tim Tszyu because Tim Tszyu going to give you that performance.
Yeah.
He's not gonna quit. He's gonna keep trying. And even when he's hurt, this ain't gonna last forever now. This only has a shelf life because physically and mentally he won't be able to keep doing this. But at least right now, Tim Tszyu will not quit on you.
Right.
And it won't be until maybe 2-3 more fights. And you know, you have to know that with the way he fights, it's a shelf life. He won't be able to do that forever. So that's with anybody. That's with Floyd Mayweather. That's with anybody. Even when we see Floyd Mayweather fight, you can see sort of the decline in Floyd Mayweather. Part of that is probably him being old and not being in the ring. But when I saw him do these little exhibition fights, I could see some decline in him.
Right.
Which is normal for a person old in boxing. But Tim Tszyu Go ahead.
Yeah, with that, it's like, the thing is, of course, Floyd talks about it, his keeping, all these faculties and all that stuff, but the cognitive skills still, kind of, decline there a little bit. So you kind of like have that thing where you usually rely on reflexes, like Roy Jones Jr. did at the top of his career. Like that type of stuff kind of dwindles down. And when it gets slower, then your reaction just, is not as fast as what you want it to be. So, yeah. So that's the thing, like you were mentioning there with Tim Tszyu, we might have to look out for that here in future fights that he has.
Yeah. So I'll just end it with this. Tim Tszyu showed to me on both sides of the fence how one should perform if they are going to lose. If you are going to lose, it's different ways to lose, right? But with what his skill set is, if you're going to lose with that skill set, he didn't quit. He never stopped trying. Even at the end of the fight, I am so thankful for his corner because they did the right thing. Like, he would have never stopped trying. He would have got knocked down again. Maybe he couldn't have got back up physically, but mentally he would have kept trying. He wasn't broken. And when people say the look on his face when he got up, he was concussed. That's the look that you do when you get hit and mentally you're trying to like fight it, but your body is like he had the look of like somebody who had a stroke or something. It was it's like your mind trying to essentially fight your body. That's just what it was. You're concussed and you have like a slack jaw look on your face because your body literally is disconnected from your head. And he's trying to like control his body when his body is not connected to his head.
It's almost like, the nervous system or a neural system there is just not connecting all the way through,
It's not connecting. And he was literally mentally trying to get himself to mentally control his body. And that's what you get. You get that face where he's like, like you get hurt and you trying to like fight through it. And that's the response. He didn't, that's just a physical thing. But even in him losing, the way he handled the end of the fight, where he said he had, it was his number, blah, blah, blah. I didn't feel like he was like, obviously he was bummed that he lost the fight, but but you can tell he's a mentally strong person by the way that he said it wasn't my night and it was his night. And he didn't I didn't feel that he left the fight like he was going to go and commit suicide and then like that. He understood like, it wasn't my night. I got to give him all the props. I mean, I just couldn't pull the trigger. I mean, he beat my butt, man, blah, blah, blah. And if I could wish anything, just to project on another fighter, which I probably shouldn't do, but I'm just going to do it. If I had a wish list, I would wish that Anthony Joshua would behave like that. Like, yes, I don't know why you laughing. This is a real thing. I'm saying that, let me say what I'm saying.
All right, go ahead.
Because I feel like I'm being judged right now.
Go ahead.
All I'm saying is Anthony Joshua loses for whatever reason. And I don't feel like Tim Tszyu took that as an indictment on himself. At least not that night. I don't know what demon's going to come up to him later, but that night and the way he responded, I felt like he took it in stride, like how you supposed to take it. The same way you take success and failure. Like shit is gonna happen. Somebody gonna have your number. Somebody got the right sort of style that's gonna give you that you're gonna be like, man, he kicked my butt, and then maybe you come back and do whatever. I'm just simply saying when Anthony Joshua goes through that, I just wish that that would be sort of the response to know that, yeah, it may not have been your day, but that's no indictment on you. Like, you still, you know who you are. Yeah, you quit a couple times, but you know who you wanted to be, or who you tried to choose to be. I see something in the chat, but I can't. I see it on the side of it. I can't see what it say. What they saying?
No, it was the back and forth that we had there real quick.
Oh no, gotcha. And so, yeah, I'm gonna be quiet, but yeah. So I mean, Tim Tszyu behaved like a champion to me, and so in my book, I'm always gonna watch Tim Tszyu. He may not necessarily be favorite. Yeah, he may physically be different, but at least at this point, Tim Tszyu is still a champion mentally to me. He's still a champion.
Yeah, we're because you talk about how we reacted and things like that. I would see if I could share like part of a clip there. It should be from Jai McAllister there real quick. So I'm gonna see if I could share it on the screen how this is gonna work, and then let me see how I'll be able to do it here. Let me see if it could run here real quick. Yeah, so I'm gonna see if this thing could jump on here real fast. Know that we got the whole thing in the scroll thing in the background, so you could barely see me. But I'm gonna play this clip here from Jai McAllister. Here it goes.
I don't think it changes anything in regards to who Tim Tszyu is, and probably, if anything, showed the warrior that lives inside him that he's never going to back down from anyone. And whenever Tim Tszyu fights, that's how he'll always show up. So from us, we're still super proud, and I know all the texts I got from Australia are right behind Tim, and it's just one of those nights. And I'll let you fire away a few questions to Timmy if you want, not too many.
Did Clash unnerve you at all when you obviously thought you may have reopened that wound at all?
Can't recall.
Yeah, Timmy, just on that, did it felt like when you got buzzed early that you kind of maybe lost your feet a little bit and just had to fight on instinct after that point?
Can't recall. Honestly, can't recall.
Tim, Kevin Garcia with Fight Hype.
Yeah.
Here's my question. Just explain whatever you're thinking about right now after that. Obviously, I don't want to ask you how do you feel because we know it's a tough loss for you, but just what's going through your mind?
What the fuck just happened? Like, what did I get hit with? And couldn't regroup, and I don't know, man. Just shit doesn't go your way, and you just have to bounce back, And I was positive after the Fundora, but I got to find more answers with this one. Like, this didn't go according to script. It was a little bit different. I felt unbelievable. I'll be honest with you. Felt unbelievable. I had a great prep, so he got me, man, and it was a better man on this night, and we live and we learn.
Thanks, guys.
So there you go. There was something there in the back part of that clip there where he kind of like compared how he was going into this to where he was when he was going into the Fundora fight, and I think it was almost like a little thing on a confidence level or something like that. Because even with the Fundora fight, like in those first couple of rounds, you've seen Tim Tszyu, doing his thing, doing his work there against Sebastian Fundora. But here against Bakhram Murtazaliev, he didn't really have much of that. But I don't know, maybe it's a different thing there with those two fighters, because at least for me, on paper, as they say, right? Fundora has that, accumulation of punches, like almost like, dead by 1,000 cuts or something like that, like accumulation of punches to wear you down, and then eventually tire you out and get you stopped. Where with Bakhram, it's almost like, it could be at any point he could hit you, and man, you could be on, like they say, spaghetti legs, So, with that being said, there with Murtazaliev, it was almost like, anything that Tim Tszyu did towards Bakhram, like it wasn't, much of an answer, or it didn't really, affect him, So at least with this one, it's like Tim Tszyu is like, after the fight against Sebastian Fundora, he's like, hey, I could bounce back from this. It was a very close fight. it was something that, you know, I could have won. I could have been, you know, the guy that had my hand raised there if the judges had, you know, put me there in their favor. But here, this was just an emphatic win by Bakhram Murtazaliev. And now he's like assessing, okay, what's the next direction that I could go at? You know, where can I go from here? You know, in this thing, you know. So see that we have this comment here from Derek. Hey, listen, I've sent out the invite. Now it's all up to him if he is going to accept the invite. Okay, so that's
Man, this ain't no gladiator arena. You even set people up here to like try to like, you know, fight other people, even if it is on the internet.
We go ahead those fights up here. We have like verbal quarrels. We've had a number of them over the course of the Boxing Source podcast. But yeah, it's almost like this guy's like Keith Thurman. Don't duck me, son. I don't know what's going on with that. But the thing there with Tim Tszyu, right now, you know, folks are talking about Tim Tszyu as, you know, at least having a name behind him for one, and that it could set him up for, you know, multiple potential fights there in the 154-pound division, you know, going into this bout against Bakhram Murtazaliev, especially if he was able to come out with the win and become the IBF super welterweight champion. You know, you had that whole thing where that fight with Virgil Ortiz Jr. pretty much got scrapped. That could have been revisited. You know, of course, the whole thing between, you know, Tszyu and Jermell Charlo, that could have been revisited. You know, you could have had something set up between, you know, Tim Tszyu and maybe Terrence Crawford. Nope. But it didn't necessarily, you know, get that thing, didn't come to fruition. And so now we got to see, like, okay, where's Tim Tszyu going to be at as far as like the rankings are concerned overall at 154 pounds and within these sanctioning bodies, you know, because we had, well, you had somebody, and now I know that they ain't going to match him up with this guy that was also part of the card, but you had a guy that had what, just a few pro fights, have a very impressive performance on that same card. But also you have a guy that was coming up in the ranks at 154 and got, you know, and stumbled there in a match against Erickson Lubin that, you know, still trying to get back in the mix. And that's Jesus Ramos Jr., you know, so you could, you know, still have a whole bunch of matchups there in 154 pounds that involve Tim Tszyu, but it's just a matter of, you know, how those guys are No Limit Boxing, not No Limit Studios. Once again, it's not No Limit Studios, y'all. It's No Limit Boxing. They're promoting, therefore, Tim Tszyu and how they're gonna, you know, be able to get that. Shout out to Jesus M in the live chat. Shout out to Trill in the live chat. He says, yo, it's more about Bakhram and not about how Tszyu looked for real, for real. Yeah, hey man, I'm telling you that was like a very impressive performance there by Bakhram Murtazaliev. And you know, now you got some folks talking about, hey man, these folks out here, you know, Eastern Europe, man, like he's, you know, he's from Russia. He out here almost looking like a younger version of Artur Beterbiev or something, man. He almost got the full, you know, the whole full thing going on. But man, yeah, he was just there like an absolute buzzsaw against Tim Tszyu last night, and he was able to, you know, perform there very, very well against Tim Tszyu. So it's like, now what could be next there for Murtazaliev with a very impressive win there in the 154-pound division and defending the IBF Super Welterweight Championship. Now, Jesus Sam in the building says, like, Tim versus Fundora's damage is carried over and has taken the toll mentally and physically, or he's asking the question there. It has that. I don't know. I mean, what is it like? Remember, this is about 2 months or so, or more than 2 months removed from when Tim Tszyu was scheduled to have the fight against Virgil Ortiz Jr. You know, so he had like a full camp, pretty much a full camp, you know, getting ready for this fight against Bakhram Murtazaliev. So I don't know if, you know, maybe he had something going down, you know, or what's happening with that. You know what I mean?
I would say no, because the way he started fighting, he wanted war. He was out there full scale war. He didn't fight like
2.5 rounds, man. They was going at it.
Yeah, he didn't fight like he was afraid. He didn't fight like anything was wrong with him. He fought like he wanted to win. He just had a guy, as Trio says, who had his number, who had this between the volume, the power, and the speed against just power. Like, it's hard to beat that. It's hard to beat it. And he tried, but he just, he was just outmatched.
Yeah, man. He was definitely outmatched in that sense, man. And it's just something like, like you said, there's some fighters out there that, could have your number. And, it's just like you run into them, like how you going to respond after, that happens, whether you get in line for a rematch or something like that, or if you have like a couple of fights and then fight another guy that has a similar style to, what you were dealing with earlier in your career. How are you going to be able to make those adjustments there? And, for Tim Tszyu, he's there now at 24-2, right? 2 consecutive losses here this year, 2024. And, he's kind of like, been in the game for, about 8 years. And I know that, on the graphic, it says like, the question, or puts up the question there, is a wrap for Tim Tszyu. Now, I wouldn't say that, it's a wrap for Tim Tszyu. We just got to see how he responds to this going into 2025. Who is out there, that could be an opponent for him in 2025. I kind of say that 154-pound division is like one of the, deeper divisions out there when it comes to a number of the fighters that could be very evenly matched. And we were able to see those type of matchups here over the course of this year, and you had like one matchup that was proposed out here by Jesus M, and that's Tim Tszyu there versus Josh Kelly. You had Tim Tszyu and Josh Kelly at number 4 and number 5 in the IBF rankings before this bout took place. So you got like maybe that could be something there. If they want to have Tim Tszyu possibly fight back over in Australia or something like that, maybe that could, go ahead and happen.
Him to explain what he mean by his body wasn't performing. It was until he got like cold cocked. He was giving just as good as he was getting early, and then he got hit.
Yeah, he just got hit. And that's that. Like if you like I said with the thing there with Bakhram, he's a guy that has something behind his punch. He was able to take down Jack Koke. He had a number of TKO victories over the course of his pro career. So he's kind of like beat up a number of the fighters that he's faced. So.
Can you explain what you mean by his body wasn't responding? Just curious.
I don't know. Maybe he's kind of like saying something. Like he said with the earlier question. If he feels like the Tim Tszyu Sebastian Fundora fight took a lot out of Tim Tszyu, and that maybe he reacts differently to the punches that opponent throws at him or lands on him. But with Bakhram, like I said, with 17 plus KOs there in his pro career, well now it's 17 KOs that he has beaten up a lot of his opponents out there. So and man, he's another one of those products of Eagles climates out there, man. I'm telling you, they be finding these folks out there, man. Whether it's Russia, Ukraine, or Kazakhstan or whatever it is, they be finding them, man. So that's something there. So you got that on one end for Tim Tszyu. There's a number of fighters that he could face, but here with Bakhram, he may have a few options out there. He's there with Eagles Climbers, so I don't think that he is necessarily locked into maybe Heyman Boxing or TGB Promotions or anything like that. So he could probably move around and have potential fights. Now maybe he could. I know some folks is mentioning Terrence Crawford, but like I said, if it ain't Canelo, you probably ain't gonna see Terrence Crawford anytime soon. And for me, when it comes to that, I don't think it happens. I'll be very surprised if it happens, given how Canelo, responds to being with PBC now. That I just don't think it's going to happen, because it's pretty much how Terrence Crawford kind of like conducted things, while working with Al Heyman before and after the fight against Errol Spence. That maybe Al Heyman's like, you know what, we're good on Terrence Crawford. So if that fight with Canelo doesn't quite happen, then that means, Canelo's like, hey, I'm not leaving PBC. I'm not going to be rolling with, Turkey in any sense. So that is what that is on that front, What it said, my guy Trill Clinton says, Tszyu has tendencies, and that's why that left was able to find Tim so often. Yeah, I mean, it was like he didn't even have much of like you were saying there about his academic. He didn't really have anything when it came to his right hand, holding a phone or anything like that. So no. That's the thing about it. PBC's a sinking ship. No, it's not. No, it's not. Come on, y'all. How many times have we, seen people say, oh, PBC's done, it's a wrap, it's over, like they're done. And here we are another year and another thing's happening. So people could keep saying it, but they still going, just like a number of these other organizations still going. And they still have to deal with, budget issues or money or anything like that. Like, it's still going on. So it is what it is on that.
He said he checked his glove, so it might have been in the back of his mind. He checked his glove because he either got bumped in the head or hit there. It was
it was a head clash.
Like that's normal. You gonna get hit, you gonna check it because it was just open, a couple months ago. So yeah, I mean that's normal.
Jesus Sam, I forgot. Jesus Sam has a history with Canelo Alvarez, man. Begging 4 dates with Innovative Top Rank. Come on, man. Come on. What are we doing? Cesar Mateo Tapia got caught with a left hook too. Hey, that was another good fight there on that card, man. Cesar Mateo Tapia and what is his first name? Vedri Saavedra. Yeah, Endri Saavedra. Yeah, that was a good little scrap. So I'll get to that in a little bit. But yeah, to close off this thing here real quick with that Murtazaliev and Tim Tszyu, right? Murtazaliev, he's going to be able to, defend his title. He probably, could have something where either it's another defense of the title, maybe against Josh Kelly, could be against Josh Kelly, or maybe Erickson Lubin could step up there and see if he could try to go after the title, since he was talking about potentially facing Tim Tszyu after this bout, and that he would have. Tim Tszyu was talking about, after this bout, I'll probably be ready by late December, early January, and I could fight, Erickson Lubin around that time. Well, so much for all that. So maybe Erickson Lubin could say, you know what, we gotta move on with that. So for now, you know what I'm saying? But yeah, before I get on to that thing there with what happened with Tapia and Saavedra, you had that co-feature bout there with Yoenis Tellez there against Johan Gonzalez in the 154-pound division. As I was mentioning, there Yoenis Tellez came in there undefeated with a record of 8-0. And it was his third consecutive bout at that venue, and his fifth overall bout in that venue. I don't know, man. He might as well just have a residency over there in Orlando or something like that. He could probably just travel over to, the Houston area, get out there with Coach Ronnie Shields, do his training thing, and then just go back in Orlando and live in Orlando or something, because he's had, a number of his, or more than half of his bouts over at the Caribe Royale in Orlando. And going up against Johan Gonzalez, who had that record of 35 wins and 3 losses, 34 of those 35 wins by way of knockout. Last time, he did have one bout in between, but, I was there when he faced Jesus Ramos there at the T-Mobile Arena during that Cinco de Mayo weekend in 2024, and he ended up having a late TKO loss to Jesus Ramos then. And so now, even though he has this experience going up against Yoenis Tellez, Tellez had a very, very impressive showing there in this one. In the first half of this fight, you had Tellez pretty much like fighting, off of his back foot, kind of like seeing what Johan Gonzalez was doing. With Gonzalez, at this point of his career, even with that, knockout ratio that he has, a number of the punches that he was landing didn't really have much behind them. So while Tellez was getting tagged a couple of times with it, wasn't nothing that really affected him that much. And then, after about round 3, you saw Tellez kind of switch from fighting off of his back foot to going forward and moving forward and putting punches together there against Johan Gonzalez. And once he did that, he pretty much took over in that fight and was able to score, one knockdown in the 6th round and then a couple in the 7th round, and eventually had the fight stopped there in the 7th round for Yoenis Tellez to get this win. Right. And so he's rising up there in the 154-pound rankings. Going into that bout, he was ranked number 6 in the WBA, ranked number 8 in the WBC. I think, I gotta see if that's updated in the WBC. I know that they had some recent rankings that were released or something like that. But he's kind of been up there, really climbing up in the ranks. So we definitely would like to see what happens here next for Yoenis Tellez. Of course, I'm sure to hear from his coach Ronnie Shields on Tuesday. When he gets on there with of course Joseph Aaron of War Week Boxing, and we'd like to see what he does. I know that Claudia Trejos that was there after the bout, kind of asked a question there to Yoenis Tellez, who would he want to face next. I think there was one name mentioned, but I think that was Xander Zayas or something like that. But Zayas is over there in top rank number 1, and number 2, it looks like they're trying to have Xander Zayas go up against Vito Mielnicki Jr. So there's that. Talk Trends in the building. He says Tellez versus Brandon Adams next. Nope, that can't happen next because Brandon Adams is there on the thing for Overtime Boxing, and Overtime Boxing has that tournament there at 154. The finals is going to come up between Brandon Adams and Andreas Kasarakis. So instead of one guy that Coach Ronnie Shields has in Yoenis Tellez fighting Brandon Adams, there's another guy in Andreas Kasarakis that's going to end up facing Brandon Adams there in that Overtime Boxing tournament for 154 pounds. So there's that, But for Yoenis Tellez, I mean, there could be a good number of potential fights out there for him, depending on what his ranking is going to be next here at this particular point there. So just looking to see how that goes. Box Academic, any assessment there of Yoenis Tellez?
I mean, I wasn't watching as intently as I could have watched, but in my inattentive watching, I just kind of saw somebody who fought somebody that was overmatched, and that he did what he's supposed to do. He got him out there. But I could have watched a lot deeper. I will say that I could have watched a lot deeper. But he looked good from what I was seeing.
Word. I mean, that's the thing about it. He's like saying, hey, even though he's under 10 pro fights, he's ready to get it in there with the number of the contenders at 154 pounds. Now I'm not going to, definitely not going to mention Tim Tszyu at this point because I don't know if that would be good for. Actually, I don't think it would be good for either of those fighters to have that fight, coming up next. But for Yoenis Tellez, there could be other potential matchups up there. Now I don't know if it could be either like Eric Shalubin either. Or maybe it's Sergey Boychuk. But the thing about it is that if Yoenis Tellez is looking to get up in the ranks there at 154, those are the guys that will be brought up or mentioned. Or as I mentioned with Jesus Ramos Jr., that could be another one where that could, be a potential title eliminator between those two guys. They both faced, the guy here in Johan Gonzalez this year, right? So maybe they have something there where they pair these two guys up. That could be something if you have Yoenis Tellez versus Jesus Ramos Jr. That could be a real. I would like, actually, you know what? I like that matchup. I like that. Yoenis Tellez versus Jesus Ramos next year, 2025. As a matter of, hold up, October, November, December, January, February, end of February. What if we have this particular bout on the card for David Benavidez versus David Morrell? So let's see if we have that. I wouldn't mind that at all. All right. So that could be something there in the 154-pound division to have Yoenis Tellez versus Jesus Ramos Jr. Okay, so there's that. Now, as Jesus was mentioning here, about almost 10 minutes earlier, you had that first bout that was like featured there on the Amazon Prime joint, right? When you had Cesar Mateo Tapia versus Henry Saavedra. And these two guys had 17 pro bouts coming into this particular fight. Tapia was there 17-0. Saavedra was 16-1 going into this bout. They're in the middleweight division. And yeah, that was a good scrap between those two fighters. But it was looking like early in that at least live, it was kind of like sounding like, Tapia was getting the better of Saavedra there in the early rounds and stuff like that. But Saavedra just kept pressing forward, and was just outworking Tapia there early. And the accumulation of punches was able to take down Tapia there in the third round, And after that, it just looked like it was going to be Saavedra, with a huge advantage and a very good night. And then all of a sudden he doesn't hold the phone there with his left hand, has his left hand down, gets caught with a right hand and gets put down to the canvas. And that one was like, oh man, that just flipped the script there live. It just flipped the script because it looked like, like I said, Saavedra was way ahead up to that point. He already had like a 10-7 round, right? So getting part of that back was, Tapia there in the 5th round. And then 6th and 7th round, they were both going at it. Saavedra was still, coming forward, giving that pressure there, as he kind of like has like Jose Escalagui is like his countryman. They were talking about a story with him and Escalagui, how Escalagui was helping him out or something like that, I think it was. And he just used that pressure to try to overwhelm Tapia in this, while Tapia kind of like relied on his power, so to speak. And then round 9, Saavedra scored the knockdown again. And I thought at least in that he would have pretty much had this bout. But it went full 10 rounds of the scheduled, bout, and scores were read, and they had 2 scores of 93-93 and 1 score of 94-92 for it to be a majority draw. Now, the thing about it is they had 94-92 in favor of Tszyu-Murtazaliev Tapia, right? So check it. You had Tapia being knocked down 3 times and Saavedra being knocked down once. So that 94-92 basically says that judge gave Tapia 7 of those 10 rounds, right? 7 of those 10 rounds. And the other 2 looks like they gave Tapia 6 of those 10 rounds. That's what it's looking like. I don't know, man, because it's 96. It would have been 96-94 if it was no knockdown score by either one of those fighters. So 2 judges had it basically 6 rounds to 4 in favor of Tszyu-Murtazaliev Tapia, and 1 judge had it 7 rounds to 3 in favor of Tszyu-Murtazaliev Tapia. That's without the knockdown. So it ended up being a majority draw, and well, at least for me watching it, I thought it would have been Saavedra that would have got the win. I didn't see it to the point where they like, especially where it has it like 7 rounds in favor of Tszyu-Murtazaliev Tapia. And I'm not all too sure about 6 rounds. I'll probably like watch it again. It was a very good fight watching it happen. But like 6 rounds, especially 7. Yeah, that I don't know, man. But yeah, Lance there on the live chat, man, said, yeah, it turned out to be a great fight. Yeah. I think, at least with that particular bout, they matched that up, pretty well between those 2 fighters. You had Saavedra there with 13 of his 16 wins by way of knockout. And you had like with Tapia 10 of the 17 or whatever it was, now 17 wins by way of knockout. So it was a good, scrap all around, there between those 2 fighters. There that was campaigning at the middleweight division. Tapia, was kind of having a majority of his career above 160 pounds. So this one, this is kind of like his second bout of sorts, trying to get there at 160 pounds. On the flip side with Saavedra, he kind of like was bouncing back and forth between, the super middleweight and middleweight divisions. Now, as far as like a rematch, I want to see, a rematch there. They say like this had IBF, what is it, like an interim? Well, not an interim. Couldn't have been an interim title. International title there on the line with this particular bout. So you probably had this to where they could, get up further in the rankings there at 160 pounds because, you had Tapia ranked at like number 14 in the IBF going into that bout. So that was something there where you could have had the winner get up there in the rankings there in the IBF if you had a clear winner in that, but you don't. It just ends up being a majority draw. So that's kind of like how that turned out with that. You know what I mean? It was seen there about like more action that did take place in that fight card. Of course, we had that conversation with Gary Antonio Russell. He was able to get back in the ring against Jaden Bernius. There, of course, he had an extended layoff since his first loss of his pro career. Was able to get the KO, execute, what he needed to execute in there. And he says, like in 2025, he wants to get back in the mix there in super bantamweight. So see if I can get like a follow-up interview with Gary Antonio Russell, to react to, what happened there against Jaden Bernius and see what he's gonna, be going after there. But he had like a number of other fights that, did go down there at the Caribbean Real Resort in Orlando. I was trying to see if I could get, my guy Terrell to get over there, but hey, daddy duties come first, second, third, fourth, and fifth. You feel me? So weren't necessarily able to have a live person there for that fight card, but at least there with the Amazon Prime Video, we got a good show from those 3 fights that were presented out there. You know what I'm saying? I was thinking if I could try something here on this live, but yeah, I'm not sure how that's gonna work. Let me see here, man. Academic, you still with me?
Yes, sir.
All right, for sure. So yeah, I was gonna try to see if I could have done something here on this thing, man. But
recording in progress.
Hold up, though. I'm gonna try to see something here with it.
Recording stopped.
But the thing about it is that I was trying to incorporate something on here to see if I could get it going, but I'm not sure how it's gonna work because I'm still trying to get this whole thing going with what's happening. So I'm not sure how that's going to work. Let me see here. I want to try something real quick. Yeah, maybe that kind of like works. I don't know. But big ups for everyone that's listening live. I don't know if y'all had some things going, but I wanted to see if I could add in a call in segment. That's the thing that I was going to do. I was going to try to add in a call in segment. So if y'all could, man, I don't know what it's going to be. Let's see how we could do this. You might get something some type of crazy message or something like that. But for those that if y'all want to react to what's going down or what happened with Tim Tszyu and Bakhram Murtazaliev, or any reaction to that fight card, you can call 646-558-8656 or 301-715-8592. I'm telling you, listen, you ain't gonna get like one of those 888 type numbers where you gotta press like 3 buttons and then they try to charge you. No. If something like that happens, you probably hit the wrong number. Okay. But if you wanted to, go ahead and chime in, you can call one of those numbers, and then we'll be able to see if we can get you going with that. Let me see here, man. Actually, you know what? I'm gonna put this joint in here. I'm gonna put it on the screen, and then we'll see what goes down with it. You know what I'm saying? So I will do that, and also, like I said, I was at Rosecroft Raceway yesterday. That's why I pretty much couldn't watch that Tim Tszyu versus Bakhram Murtazaliev card live. So thing about it is that with that fight card, that was by No Excuse Promotions, who is headed by Lamar Roach Sr., right? And thing about it is that we had like a number of young prospects out there. That included Jordan Roach. Included Jordan Roach. And Jordan Roach had about there on that card. You also had Ben Johnson on that card, of course. They had their first pro bouts on, what was it, like wasn't like that far back either, but with that being said, they were able to go ahead and have knockout victories. I mean, it was pretty easy victories for both of them. Jordan Roach had beat Robert Ledesma there within 1 round. You had also Ben Johnson beat Igor Santos in 1 round. That's what I got, man. I put the thing there in the scroll. Hold on, I'm gonna see if y'all can't see the scroll there, man. Just let me know, and I'm gonna see if I could get the joint on this thing here on the scroll on the chat. You know what I'm saying? So I'll see if I could do that also.
I can see it from, but maybe because I'm in the show.
Yeah, you in the joint, so you probably could see it that way. But yeah, I gotta see how this thing is looking here below. But we'll see how that goes. But yeah, once again, it's that 646-558-8656 or 301-715-8592. You know what I'm saying? So you'll be able to get that thing going. You know what I'm saying? But yeah, hold up. I'm gonna see that joint here. I'll get it going. I'll type the joint in here for y'all real quick, and then you'll be able to react to what's going down. So yeah, I mean the thing is scrolling down there, but let's see. I'll put it in the chat and then I'll pin it to see there if y'all be able to jump in and do if y'all wanted to go ahead and react to what's been happening and what's going down. But yeah, like I was saying there with the with that prospect show, thereby no excuse promotions. I did say that you had Jordan Roach, of course, that was part of it. You had Ben Johnson that was on there. David Whitmire was able to score a win in that fight card as well. Cornelio Phipps also scored a win. Max Garland in the opening bout was able to score the win, TKO win. And you also had Francois Scarboro Jr. get a decision win over Wayne Lawrence. And you had in the main event, Eric Hernandez getting a win over Dwayne Ziegler by unanimous decision. And it will be, on Pro Box TV. They're going to, post it there later on, so you'll be able to see the fights there. You'll be able to see me floating around or whatever it is a little bit, depending on the camera angles or something. You'll be able to see me on there, with the camera and stuff like that. But if y'all following the Boxing Source on Instagram, you'll be able to see a couple of those photo highlights of what went down yesterday. You know what I'm saying? So you do have that. I thought it was good overall card as far as young prospects are concerned. That was like my first time over at Rosecroft Raceway for boxing. As far as like Rosecroft Raceway, I know that they have the the whole little horse racing thing and the bet lines and all that type of stuff going on there at Rosecroft Raceway. And brother Mike and our other guest, longtime guest here, brother Terrell, knows that I be out there sometimes for some other events that go down around now. But at least here they had like a good little event for fighting. The only thing was, at least for me, the way that the ring was laid out and stuff like that, like I wasn't able to freely move around with the camera, so I was like at one set spot, and it was like behind the table, so I wasn't like as close to the ring as I am sometimes there with those type of cards. So but even with that, I still felt like it was a good event all around, and that type of stuff. So that's what's happening there. Just seeing here, I was gonna see if there was like anything else going down as far as what's happening. I don't know if folks was able to chime in or not. But yeah, with that being, with that going on, there really isn't, at least for me, I don't think there's really that much other action that's coming up here until November, right? I think there's supposed to be a bout here with Regis Prograis and Jack Catterall over in Manchester there at the 140-pound division that's coming up on this coming Saturday. But at least for me, just looking forward to action is coming up November 2nd, and also on what it is like November 8th and November 9th. So that's the thing that I'm looking forward to is November 8th, of course, you're going to have Keyshawn Davis in action, right? And in November 9th, you're going to have Jerome Boots Ennis going up against Karen Chikajian, and also Jesse Bam Rodriguez defending his WBC title against Pedro Guevara, right? So definitely looking forward to that. Now, the thing with November 2nd, though, over in Verona, well, it's Verona, so that's the thing about it. It's Verona, right? You will have the rematch with Oshaki Foster and Robson Conceição. And yeah, I was there in Newark when they had the first fight, and Oshaki Foster pretty much like, he basically washed Conceição. Conceição didn't really do much of anything in that fight. And for some reason, the judges had Conceição winning that fight. That was the wildest thing, pretty much the wildest thing I've seen. But you have Oshaki Foster with the opportunity to fight for that belt once again here coming up on November 2nd in Verona, New York, part of a top-ranked card there. Also going to have Abraham Nova included on that card. Bryce Mills looks like he's going to be facing Mike Ohan Jr. Looked like he was going to be facing Hank Lundy on this card, but apparently Hank Lundy announced his retirement. So, yeah, that ain't happening. Ray Murataya is going to be in this fight card as well. He had that bout against Tevin Farmer, right? He's going up against Jesus Perez in this fight card in Verona, New York. You're also going to have Jahai Tucker included in that fight card, and Damian Neba. Speaking of that, I had an interview with Damian Neba some time back. I'm going to see if I'll be able to catch up with him once again. So that's going to be a dope for me to see if I could catch up with him, right? But yeah, outside of that, there, I haven't seen much of what else is going down. They say that there's going to be something November 2nd in Birmingham, England. But, it involves a couple of, it involves Chantel Cameron there for her, junior welterweight title, interim title, whatever it is. So you do have that. But, outside of that, really not much other action there. With that being said, you got this stuff coming up November 8th and 9th. That's going to be a very busy weekend there for boxing, particularly if you're around the area that I'm in. You have 2.5, 3 hour driving time in between both Norfolk and in Philadelphia. So like I said, I mean, when I seen those two cars be there back to back, it's like a double dip. That could be, pretty much a back to back or of sorts there with that. So definitely wanted to see how that's going to turn out. I'd like to be able to get to both of those fight cards. Just not that much rest for me in that aspect. There, once that comes to fruition. But definitely looking forward to that weekend there, as we're going to have a number of good action there. And then also November 15th, you had that fight card over in Arlington, Texas. Mike Tyson versus Jake Paul, the Taylor Serrano rematch, Mario Barrios versus Abel Ramos. Bruce Carrington is on this card, going up against Dana Coolwell in an 8-round bout. Hey, he's staying busy. You got Shadeja Green back in the mix. They're going up against Melinda Watpool for the vacant WBO super middleweight title. So, number of that is a lot of fights there on that card. You got the Pro Box card that's coming up. That should be there. What is that? With Sheretta Metcalf. So she is trying to get what is it? I have to see I forgot which division she was in there, but she is going on that Pro Box card against Mio Yoshida. It's a rematch there where Yoshida lost to Metcalf last year, but was able to get in position to fight once again for a world title or something like that. So now they're gonna have this rematch in New York on the 23rd. So that's Wednesday. That's Pro Box TV on there with that. So also got to look for that card on Pro Box TV. Speaking of Pro Box TV, I almost forgot. Even though I had the thing going on there with the midweek report, pretty much had a late midweek report on Wednesday. I want to get reaction there if my guy Academic is still with me. To Chris Colbert basically getting cooked up, getting being put on a platter and all that type of stuff there, and like really not having much behind his punches at all in his bout that he had there against Omar Salcedo, and ended up getting stopped. Well, the corner just waved it off because they just felt like Chris Colbert didn't really have much behind his punches or whatnot. So Academic, any reaction to that?
The fight was boring to me. And then I was like, eat some ice cream or something. And then and then he got punched real hard or something. Then I'm like, dang, I just I thought it was gonna go to a decision, but then like something happened. I actually don't remember. I just remember that it got stopped, but it wasn't like very exciting.
Right. Yeah, I mean, I feel you. Like there wasn't nothing where it was like many knockdowns or anything where it was like Chris Colbert was seriously hurt. I mean, he was getting tagged a little bit, but it wasn't like anything where he was getting seriously hurt. It was just something where it was almost like a lack of effort there from Chris Colbert, right? And it was almost like, how can I say this about Chris Colbert?
Like he was inspiring.
Well, one, like he's inspiring, but he has a demeanor like he's dismissive of a lot of things that happen around him. Now some may know this, some may not, but for some reason, Chris Colbert is not necessarily a approachable person when it comes to asking questions, basic questions, any type of thing there from the media. And I've seen this from him for like years. And when he had this whole thing that came up with Hector Luis Garcia, right? This was like a whole little, like some other stuff was going on with him and Gary Russell Jr. And he had the fight here with Hector Luis Garcia, and he was like very dismissive of that particular bout. And then he ended up getting knocked down in that bout and ended up losing, right? So that kind of like, went off of his, he got derailed there. Then he has the bout against Jose Rayo Valenzuela and gets a decision win in that one, even though we got knocked down early in that bout. A number of people thought he lost that bout. And he said, man, all right, y'all thinking that I lost that bout? We'll run it again. Then he put a bet on it. He put a bet on it that he was going to win. What is it? 50. He put like 50,000 on the line. Then he got knocked out. He got flattened. He got floored. He got stretched by Rayo Valenzuela last December. And some of y'all know the little clip there that they had on TikTok or Instagram or whatever it is with that last knockdown. And you had my guy Patrice or Booby Harris there in the corner, like, yeah, he was just out. He was done, at least in that particular bout. Yeah, Trill, I don't know, man. It looks like Chris Colbert, like, fell out of love of the game of boxing or something, because he even in the pre-fight, he was talking about, he's just, just focused on this bout, not really looking ahead to what could happen or whatever it is, and that he wants to get, this bout over with and then try to get back down to, 130 pounds and compete at the super featherweight division. But here in this one, it just felt like he just didn't, almost like he didn't want to be there. It's almost like he didn't want to be there. I don't know if it's something where he felt like being on Pro Box maybe was below him or something, but nah. It better not be, because Pro Box was putting in work. Okay, he was putting in work. But him having that fight against Salcido, and it was like he really couldn't do much of anything to really affect Salcido. And a number of folks, given the background of Chris Colbert, even though this was like at 100 or above 135 pounds as far as like the weight, but was scheduled for a lightweight bout, that Chris Colbert should be able to handle this dude. Outbox him, move around the ring or something like that, and just school him, get a wide decision win over Tapia. But didn't necessarily happen like that. So I'm not sure if what could happen here next with Chris Colbert. I mean, it's just 20 professional fights that he's had, just 20 professional fights there, and off and on, I'd say from an organized standpoint, from an amateur rankings, he started at 2012, so it's only been 12 years being in boxing or so, something like that. And he's there at 28 years old. You'd think there's a lot that he could have, but at least from the effort that he had there against Omar Salcido on Wednesday night, I'm not seeing where he could go here at this particular point, But hey, that's mainly what I got, man. Like I said, I had tried to open the phone lines and whatnot to see if folks would be able to join in and whatnot. But I think y'all scared to dial that number, man. I'm telling you, it's not us. These are not spam numbers. These are real numbers. Okay, these are real numbers. All right. So with that being said, I'm putting we'll probably put a bow to this particular podcast. We'll try to get it available here, like I said, on audio form for people to listen to here, wherever y'all go. So we're gonna try to get that set up. As I mentioned before, you'll try to get Damian Neba, try to get him on for an interview. Try to get I gotta reschedule something there with Gary Antoine Russell. Wasn't able to initially get in contact with him to speak over the weekend, so we're gonna try to reschedule that and have him on here, whether it's through YouTube, Rumble, or just have something separate, and then I'll be able to post it later on for y'all to go ahead and enjoy. So y'all be on the lookout for that. I'm just putting in work here for the Boxing Source for all y'all to go ahead and enjoy. And like I said, just go check out these local cards. Whether you're able to cover them or you're able to get a ticket. Just go ahead and cover or go to those local cards. Support the local promoters and all that type of stuff here. So I mean, I know that we got the big events out there, the pay-per-view events and all that type of stuff. But also, if you're in an area where they have boxing, whether it's pro or amateur boxing, go ahead and show your support through that, and it'll be definitely appreciated as you see these young people get up in the ranks and move their way up to being a contender and then potentially a world champion. So like I said, support the local cards. With that being said, that is it for the October 20th, 2024 version of the Boxing Source podcast. Big up to Box Academic here for joining us on this particular podcast, and I'll catch y'all later. Peace out.